This is a video on how to construct a do-it-yourself secure case or Faraday bag to prevent your smartphone, iPhone, Android phone, and similar phones from spying on you, tracking you, watching you with the video cameras, listening to you with microphones, and especially isolating it from the cellular network, from other radio networks completely. Thus, it's incapable of spying on you. That still means that you have the phone in this case for emergencies, for special occasions, that kind of thing. And in an emergency or other situation where you really want to use the phone, you can open up the case and take the phone out. All right, so let's show this. And here's my phone. There are commercially available cases for doing this. This is an example that I have. It's usually a good idea to have at least two of them because they're quite easy to misplace or lose track of. And these definitely work better than this does, but they may become unavailable. The government, for example, could effectively either overtly ban them or somehow they're just not available. In addition to these types of commercially available cases, which are now readily available on Amazon or other suppliers, you can also use these hermetically sealed metal containers. They're used for a number of types of food. They're also used for some games. I was able to find a dominoes game that was marketed in a metal box like this. These are perfectly sealed, and you can actually just drop your phone in one of them and do the same. Again, these might somehow magically disappear from store shelves with the growing censorship and dictatorial practices in the US and other countries. So the question of how you might do this, how you might do it yourself and make these from readily available materials, notably tin foil. You need a metal material like these metal containers. This case is metal lined. You can use tin foil, aluminum foil, various kinds of foil to line some type of case that you make. I use felt and some other materials, hot melt glue gun here. There are, of course, many variations on this. You could do this with various kinds of cloth that are readily available, old clothes, for example. You could use sewing or stapling instead of the glue gun, which is what I demonstrate. And, of course, if you think about it, there's probably a lot of other things you could do with this. But this is an example showing in detail how you make such a do-it-yourself case. I guess I would recommend that it's a good idea to get a couple of these for whatever needs you might have. Now we'll start on the presentation. It's divided into sections as I show different steps in doing this. It's not super complicated, but it does take a while, maybe an hour or two. Probably longer, actually, because you probably will screw up the first one and have to do it a couple times before you get it right. So you can now, there's next step should be a table of contents showing the different steps, followed by segments on how to perform each step of fabricating this secure case. These are also known as Faraday bags. These are the tools and supplies needed to create a secure case that isolates your phone from radio networks, cellular networks, and makes it impossible for the phone to spy on you. So let me go over what these are, and I'll subsequently show how to use them to make the case. So we have paper towel here. The paper towel is used for cleaning up, and I'm going to put it down as a surface to protect the table here, the desk here, from the melted glue and pieces of felt and other stuff during the process. It happens to be Reynolds wrap, but you can get these types of aluminum or tin foil at many supermarkets, many drugstores all over the place. This is a conducting material, and this is what provides the actual shielding in the case. It's pretty fragile, and it has to be perfectly hermetically sealed to cut off the radio signal. So that's the problem why you can't use it very easily and why I'm constructing a case out of it. A pair of scissors for cutting. This is a hot melt glue gun. This one I think was about $8, $10. They range from very cheap ones like this that you can pick up at drugstores, Walmarts, supermarkets, etc., to fancier ones. Be aware that these get hot They get very hot. The glue can burn you. They are mild burns, at least in my case. If you have some kind of skin condition or health issues, it might be a greater issue, but be aware these things are hot. They usually get some burns. They're very minor burns. They're very painful at first, and they clear up pretty quickly. Within the really sharp pain goes away within, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. So be very careful with these and try not to burn yourself. If you have any health issues or skin issues or things like that, be particularly careful. Maybe you should get someone else to do it. There are probably other adhesives that aren't heated up that you can use, but I'm using a glue gun. It's a very common device used in costuming and all kinds of different uses, woodworking. So that's the glue gun. These are the Velcro straps, which will provide the final seal for the flap, the end at which you insert the phone into the case, and then you have to fold it over and seal it with the Velcro. Put that there. These are some about 8 inches by 12 inches long felt. Let me just show a little bit of felt. I order these from Amazon, but you can get them at Walmart's frequently. Let's see, see if I can get that under. There we go. Okay, so this is what we're going to cut the case out of and make the. It provides backing. It's stronger than the tinfoil. It provides insulation, so the tinfoil is separated from the touchscreen of the phone, and so you don't get weird interactions between the touchscreen and the conducting material, and it makes it look a lot nicer. This is a power strip with a switch, on-off switch. This particular glue gun, and a fair number of the cheaper glue guns, doesn't actually have an on-off switch. You squeeze, let me see if I can show that. You squeeze this in order to extrude the glue, which feeds in the back here, and it's hot, so you have to be kind of careful, especially this tip here, but parts of it get hot. It's got an electrical element in here that heats up the glue and turns it into a hot liquid. The point is, it just turns on when you plug it in. Now it won't do that here because I'm not giving it the power, so by doing this I add a switch to turn on to a glue gun that doesn't have a switch, and that's very useful to turn it off when you want to turn it off. And you probably should turn it off when you're not using it. Actually, I say turn it off when you're really not using it. One of the reasons for that, according to at least YouTube videos, is these can overheat if they're left on too long and sometimes explode or do other bad things. So only have it on when you really need it on and to immediately turn it off. Either unplug it, or if you have a switch mechanism like this. In my demo, I'll probably be turning this on and off. This is a ruler for measuring things. We'll do some cutting and folding, and so this is necessary. I have a pen for making some marks on the felt, on the other materials. These are the glue sticks. You'll need several of these. I have, I don't know, 7 or 8. That's probably enough. But these are consumed very quickly, as you'll see in the demo. This doesn't provide a lot of glue. This is a fairly large case. It fits a large cell phone that I have. So you'll need several of these that work with the glue gun you have. So they have different diameters. This is a pretty standard size that works with this gun, but be aware that they can differ in size. This is painter's tape, which we'll use for sealing and reinforcing the tinfoil part of the case, and etc. And I think I mentioned, I mentioned the paper towel, but this is for cleaning, and also we're going to put it down here on the surface to protect it from the hot glue and from other stuff during the process. I probably won't use this flashlight, but there is a flashlight. You might want something like a flashlight depending on your lighting, so you can look at especially the interior of the case lit up and make sure it looks okay. So that concludes this overview of the tools and components. This is the first step in building the secure case. We have a sheet of paper towel down here to protect the desk from the glue and other components. This is a piece of felt. It's 8 inches by about 12, and we'll be folding it around the phone this way to make an interior pocket that will protect the phone inside the case. It will also prevent the phone from interacting with the tin foil, which can happen with the, let's see if I can get that. There we go. Okay. And of course it promptly goes, there we are. So this is the touchscreen. The touchscreen interacts with conducting surfaces. So your finger is a conducting surface. So the tin foil, which we're going to use to provide the shielding, is also conducting. So part of the purpose of this is to protect the phone from the tinfoil, and it protects the tinfoil, which is pretty fragile, from the phone and wear and tear. Okay, so there we go. So the first step is we're going to cut off an inch of here. We're going to make a very snug small case or pocket that can fit inside the larger exterior case. So what we will do is measure off an inch. Okay, there we go. So this is an inch. And so that's going to cut it down to 7 inches across. So there we are. We line it up with the surface here, and we put a mark here. And then we want to put a mark at the other end. Again, we line it up with the edge of the felt, and we do something there. Let me double check. I might have made a mistake. Okay. Yeah, I put the mark at the wrong place. You want to mark here. Okay, so that's, let me make sure it's big enough that it's clear which one to use. Okay, so we now have the marks, and then we're going to put we're going to draw along here to mark off the edge piece that we're going to cut off. Okay, all right, so now we have a guideline for cutting. Let's see if we can show that. We cut carefully along it. So this is the first step towards making the case. All right, let's do that right there. Okay. And we're just going to throw that away. Not worry about it at this point. So the next step is that we are going to use the case to guide forming this over the surface of it. So for right now, we're just going to do this, and we're going to glue it down at each end. So put the scissors aside, we'll put the marking pen aside, and actually for this part we don't need this either, and we have the glue gun. And now I've had the glue gun on for a couple of minutes, so remember, it takes about 3 minutes for the glue guns to heat up. You don't want to leave them on if you're not using them, because they can sometimes overheat or do other bad things. You can burn yourself on them pretty easily, and I may succeed in burning myself here. So what I'm actually going to do is slide this back so I have plenty of room. That won't be feasible, actually be feasible at the other end too. So now that we know how this fits together, we want to put the glue right along the edge, slow and easy. This is probably not quite ideal. You have to push this in. Some of the better more expensive glue guns may be a little easier to use. This is really cheap. You can get these almost anywhere. And so now we want to tap it down right at the edge here. Hopefully that'll work out okay. Now remember, the glue is really hot at first. It will cause burns and be quite painful if you touch it before it cools down. Now it cools down pretty rapidly, but again, you have to be really careful with it. And also, and we'll get to this later, I'll repeat this when I do the tinfoil, felt or any of the materials you're going to use for this interior pouch and the exterior of the case, these are going to be insulating materials that insulate electricity. They also insulate heat, so they protect your fingers, but the aluminum foil is a conductor, and so as soon as it's touched by the super hot glue, the aluminum foil itself will get super hot. So you can burn yourself on the aluminum foil if you're touching on top of if you have the hot glue on one side touching the aluminum foil, and you touch the other side of the aluminum foil on top of it, or very close to, it actually can be not so close, but within range of the hot glue, it'll be burning hot too for a little while. Okay, so let me let this, make sure this is down. Okay. Now this will be very snug at first, and you'll have to kind of break in the case. So here, and let me actually, and there's probably better materials than the paper towel to do this, but so incidentally at some point you'll want to trim these off and make sure the edge is really nice. We don't have to worry about that right at this moment. So what I'm going to do next, and this is where it gets very dicey, or not very dicey, but a little unpredictable. So now we're going to do the other end. So let's make sure this is flat here, so we can crease it a little bit. It tends to preserve its shape, and we will basically Do this very slowly at the other end. Okay, we'll bring this down as we do it. That way we know where we are and where we should stop. Okay, so that's actually that. Now, see, I didn't burn myself too badly there, but it's a little bit hot. And let's make sure if this is down. And actually, this is a case where you could use a ruler, for example, to hold the end down here, and that'll work. You can just hold it like that. It'll hold the entire piece of felt down. So you want to give it some time to cool off here, and then we're going to see if we've done it well enough that we can slide the phone back in. So the idea here is to have a very snug, safe place for the phone to fit inside, and then we're going to actually wrap the tinfoil over it to provide a perfect hermetic seal. And what will happen is we will have sealed the tinfoil along here, along here, along here by double folding and taping it. And we'll have an opening up here. That opening, we will be able to fold it twice to produce a seal here, and we would actually seal it with the Velcro straps finally to hold it in place. Okay. See how that's doing. Again, it's sort of stuck to the here, and that's good. You can see that this is no longer super hot or liquid, but it's still setting. In fact, probably it sets for a while. So while I'm waiting for it to set, let me just use the scissors to trim off here. I would say use something like scissors that's relatively safe. Don't use an X-Acto knife. It's pretty easy to cut yourself with an X-Acto knife, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so we trimmed off some of the glue. The glue gets on things. It's part of the reason for having this sort of drop cloth, or in this case, a paper towel. And let's see how it's doing there. Okay, it's looking a bit better. Maybe we could trim a little bit more here. And again, we want it to look as nice as possible. This is going to be inside the case, so it doesn't have to be perfectly great looking, people. But it's going to be a very tight fit inside the case, so we want these tabs trimmed off to make it fit really snugly. All right, so let's see how this works out. And there it works. And see, it fits inside of there. And the final step, we actually don't want all of this here. I just left it here for simplicity. So let's chop off some of that, and we'll see how the next step goes after we've done this. So let's slice here, and then we're going to cut with the scissors to actually, let's show that. Okay, so now we have this interior case. Now again, we will cover it over with the tinfoil, and then we'll cover felt on the outer case made out of the felt. That will look nice, will give it strength, and protect the tinfoil, which is fragile. So that will be the next step. The next step is to enclose this interior pouch or case, which is felt, and the phone is right here. We want to enclose that in tin foil. So the ultimate goal is that we will take these two 8 by 12 inch pieces of felt. They'll form the exterior of the secure case. This will go inside here, and there'll actually be tin foil bag there, and then this will be over here, and it will be glued along the edges. So it'll be completely secure, and the way that it will close is you'll fold over about 1 inch and another inch, and we'll have a Velcro strip here, and that will seal like that. So this has to be done carefully, because for these folding straps, we don't want glue along the sides. We need to have places for it to naturally fold that won't have any glue, because the glue is stiff, and we want to be able to fold it twice. Again, we'll have a Velcro strip here, and it'll adhere here, and that will make a case. All right, so let's pull these out of the way. So we want this larger piece of felt as a guide for the tinfoil. So this is tinfoil. It's 12 12 inches along in width, and it goes like 50 feet or something. So we need about a little over 2 feet of this. So we will pull it out, and it covers there. But remember, we have to fold it over completely. So it'd be about here. Let me actually, yeah. Takes a little time to think through what we want to do here. Okay, because remember, this is going to basically be inside of here, and we want it to be able to fold all the way over. And let me see if I can, yeah, it's not the ideal way to do it, but it'll work well enough. We folded at this end, and it's usually good to have a little extra, because then you just trim the extra off. So let me, of course it's not working quite right here. All right, this is why we don't like. All right, so actually we tore it here, so we don't see. This is one of the problems, which maybe it's good to illustrate here, is that these tinfoil is very fragile, which is why we're encasing it in, one of the reasons for encasing it in the felt. So again, we want it to be like this. We want it to fold completely over, like so. We're going to do like that. We want it to be here, and then we're going to cut it here. We can do that slowly. We don't want to damage it. As you can see, the tinfoil is very fragile, so that's a major problem with using tinfoil. The commercial secure cases, so-called Faraday bags, usually use some other metal materials for the lining that aren't as fragile as tinfoil, but those are not easily available, and the government could, for example, stop them from being sold. All right, so there we are. So that gives us the approximate size. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this here. Okay, so remember, this has the phone in it. We want to keep the phone in it as a kind of guide because we need it to fit snugly around the phone. So we fold this over. Now, just to repeat something I've mentioned many times, this is not hermetically sealed. So for example, if I were to place a phone call, which I'm going to do as just to demonstrate, it's to take a few seconds. Okay, so I'm at redial, so I hit redial, it will redial my phone. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's actually taking off. I'm trying to bring my microphone close to it so you can hear the sound. So in fact, it made the call. All right, so I'm gonna, there we go, hung up, okay. So the point is that the phone, we can test the phone as we're building it to see what happens. So now we wanna make sure we have a really good seal. So to do that, we double fold it along the edges. We're going to do that one time, and we're going to do it again. So we're going to have a tight seal there. We're going to do the same at the other end. Okay. So again, we're doing this to achieve a hermetic seal that blocks the radio signals. And the radio signals can go through very tiny cracks. That's contrary to what some accounts of Faraday cages on the internet, and I think even in some physics textbooks, will claim that the radio signals, which are about a foot in wavelength or 30 centimeters, be about this long, the wavelength, that it would not be able to get through the cracks, but that empirically is false. And then the final thing that we want to be able to do, so I kind of showed this, but I want to emphasize how the idea behind this working. This will not be sealed by, these are going to be taped along the sides here, but this we're going to be able to open and use a Velcro strap or Velcro attachment. So let me press it down, and let's see if we can confirm. I'm going to tape it next using this, but first let's just see if we can confirm that it in fact is adequately sealed to prevent the radio signals from getting through. So here we go again. All right. Okay, so we're waiting. Okay, we're getting the ring. The question is, does the phone start ringing?
I'm sorry, the person you were trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Please try your call again later. Goodbye.
So it wasn't able to talk to the cellular network because it's sealed up like this, and that's what we want to find out. All right. So now I'm going to open this back up, and we're going to use tape to seal these, make sure these seals don't come undone. So let me peel off the tape. So we might start the tape at this end. And to make it nice and solid, we do that. And the purpose of this is to make sure that the seal is secure, and also to help strengthen and support the tinfoil, which, as we know, is very fragile. Okay, so we'll take the tape here. Sorry, I need to be careful about this. And there we go. Okay, so that's one end. All right, then we're going to do the same thing at the other end. I'm actually going to do it from the opposite direction. And so we'll start at this end, and we'll start there. We're going to. Now you have to be careful doing this. As you can see, it's very, very easy to bend or tear or warp the tinfoil. So you do this slowly and carefully. It's a little annoying maybe, but that's the best way to do it. We're going to snip it off here, put that away, and then we're going to wrap it around the end here, and that helps to add more strength to the tinfoil. So far, so good. So again, we have the next step is to secure the felt bag inside. So we have this tight case that fits around the phone. Now that is free inside the metal tinfoil bag, the so-called Faraday bag. And so the problem is that it can slip free when you're using the case. We want it secured to the tinfoil bag. You could actually have glued the tinfoil on first and then done the taping and so forth, and that may be an easier way. But since I didn't do that, I'm going to show a different way to do this. So what we're going to want to do is apply some of the glue down inside, there we go, down inside the bag here. So I'm going to, so there's really two sides, so we want to put some glue in. So what I'm going to do is put a lot of glue on probably this corner here, so where it's multiply folded. So the glue hopefully will stay hot enough that we can kind of smear it inside the bag. Okay, so there we go. Put that aside, and we're going to go there. And I'm not actually going to show how to do this with the camera. I go and okay, so we applied hopefully some of the glue in here, and now we want it. Yeah, I can feel the heat, but okay, so actually okay, and it's worth remembering that this exterior bag is conducting, which means it conducts heat as well as electricity. So the hot glue inside here has actually made you can actually feel the heat very, very easily through the bag. So we're going to do that. And yeah, well, it's still actually a little bit molten there. So that's good. So this is not the ideal way. It's probably better to glue the bag on before you tape it. Okay, so let me kind of check in there to see that it's securing, make sure it's so what I'm doing is I got my hand in here, and remember, don't touch the bag, touch the felt, and just press it down to make sure that it's snug against the glue and against the side of the bag, so the glue will harden and hold the bag in place inside of it. And again, it's probably easier to apply the glue to the bag before you tape it, and then fold it up and let it dry. All right, so I think I've got a slight burn on my thumb. All right. And actually on the other side in here, which I can show here, I don't actually have some glue. So can I, we've got some strands of glue as it's drying, and let's see if we can maybe rub that off. It's actually, we need to get make sure that the nozzle of the glue gun is below the felt bag. And okay, hopefully we got some glue in there. Now, this is where we have to be especially careful because this is going to be very hot when it contacts the glue. So we're going to press it down with something like this, a cloth or a glove or something that will protect your hand from it. I'm going to just say, yeah, it's very warm. You can feel the glue. It's definitely in there. Okay, again, this is not the ideal way. I kind of rushed, and I probably would have been better before putting the tape, open the seal up, apply the glue to the felt and the aluminum foil, and let it dry, and then fold it up and tape it. That's a better way. So I'm going to stop now, and the next step again, we'll let this set before we do anything. And the next step will be to enclose it in the felt, the exterior felt bag. The next step is to enclose the fragile tinfoil Faraday bag. So this is hermetically sealed, or it can be when you fold it over like this. So we do two folds here. Now that's important. So let me do it this way. And now in the final bag, you would have the felt would actually fold over here. So like that and like that. And okay. So the point is, you would fold it over a couple of times and it's completely sealed. The tin foil or aluminum foil, it does the job, but it's very fragile, it's easy to damage, and it doesn't look very nice, as anyone can tell. Whereas the felt, properly color selected, and if the glue is trimmed carefully, will look nice as well. All right, so we want to put this felt on that side, and we have another piece. These are about 8 inches by 12-inch pieces of felt that will fully enclose it, and they're going to be glued to each other at the edges and to the tin foil. Now, we don't want to glue we have to be very careful about how we glue them for these flaps here. So again, remember what we're going to try to do here is something like this. And in fact, that's not quite the way we want it to happen. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go a little bit ahead of my original scheme, and we're going to trim off this lip here, so it's nice and neat. Hopefully it'll stay neat enough. And I'll show what I want to accomplish here. Okay, so we took that piece off, and actually we snapped a little bit of the felt in the process, which is not desirable, but okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to have a good solid section here that we can fold over. So we would fold over like this, one fold, and that won't, let me do it a little bit further. We want a nice piece here. The reason for this is we're going to put the Velcro on it, so we want it to be fairly large. We want it to be at least an inch, and then we're going to flip over again. All right, so there we are. And so then up to here, we want solidly glued, and that's what we're going to do. Let me put some marks so I know where that is. And we'll put this mark on the other side. And this is to guide the gluing process. Okay, but when we do these folds, we don't want the glue in the areas that actually fold. So in other words, there's going to be a fold right here. We're going to crease it, so it'll try to remember where that is. At these places here, we don't want any glue in those because it will interfere with it, and it will cause, the glue is stiff, and so it will actually pull backwards and pull open the seal, which we don't want. Okay, so it would be like this, right? And in fact, what's going to happen is we'll have the Velcro here, and we do that. So, and of course, we keep the phone inside so we can make sure that everything fits. Okay, so let me just try one more time. So this guy's going to come over like that. That guy's going to go like that, and then we would do this. So the other part of the Velcro strap will be here, or Velcro attachment will be here. And we have these here which tell us where to do the gluing. All right. So let me put these aside for now. And actually what we can do, what we're going to do here is, actually we will take that aside. And we're going to kind of put some glue down. Okay, hold it like that so I can force the glue through. And we'll do something like this inside the area here. I'm not being very careful here. You should do this as smoothly and as you can. And like this and like that. We want a little bit in the middle. And I'll put another one of these. Again, you use a lot of glue in this process, and the gun is very hot, so be careful what you hold on to. Hold on to the handle and not anything else. Okay, so that's there. We put it aside here, and now we're going to put this fellow back down and let it set. And I actually managed to touch some of the glue, although I didn't burn myself too badly. Okay, so that's there. Now, again, we don't want to glue on either side above these points right now. At least not yet. Okay. All right, so that we'll let that sit for a little while, and it will cool. And it cools pretty fast, which is a plus and a minus. It's a plus in that you're not at risk of the heat of burning yourself for very long. On the other hand, it gives you very little time to put it in place. So let me kind of check on this here. There we go. Okay. So what we want to do, let me see if I can do that. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we have these points here where we bend it. So again, let's mark the creases where we were probably going to bend it. And we don't want to put glue close to those places, because we don't want the glue along this bending spot here, bending area here. We want to put the glue in the center here. So I'm actually got some of these strings that you get. All right, so let's now make sure that's there, and we're going to put the glue right in the center of these. Okay, so maybe we want to put a little bit of glue here. Okay, so I'll do that, and it's going to do that. Now be very careful with this because, again, as I said before, the heat goes right through the aluminum. It will get super hot right away, like the glue. So as a result, if you were to touch here, it's going to be really hot. So again, we have marked where it's finally folded over in each of the folding points. We don't want any glue along this line here. On the edges or in the middle, same way here, so it'll bend freely. And we want to have some glue in the center to hold it in place, to hold the tin foil in place. And we're going to have to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so let me, I think we're probably ready for the next step. Now again, we need to be very careful with this because we're going to want to bring it down fairly fast once we have the glue. So put the glue in the center, don't put it around the edges. At least I think that's probably the wisest thing right now. So we want it in the middle of the rectangle, and we're going to push it down. And again, you want to do that with something like a glove or a piece of cloth like this, a towel or a rag or something to prevent yourself from burning yourself on the aluminum foil. So remember again, aluminum foil conducts electricity. Anything that conducts electricity really well also conducts heat really well. And so the result of that is that this will heat up immediately to the hot glue gun temperature, which is significant and can burn you. They're, I guess, mild burns. You don't have to go to the hospital or anything, but it's painful. And, yeah, it's not something you want to have happen, obviously. And you should be especially concerned if you have any health issues. You should check with your doctor or whatever. Make sure that there's no danger with doing this if you're not experienced with you already know the answers if you're a costuming enthusiast or someone who uses glue guns a lot, which I am not. Okay, so we put that down. And I'm going to stop at this point, and we will resume with the gluing the other side. Well, the next step is to put the other felt sheet on top. We'll glue it, and then we're going to glue around the edges here. Let me just remind the importance of this bending here. So this is the seal at the end. So it's going to be completely sealed around these three sides, but the top here is where the phone goes in. So just to illustrate that again, the phone is down in a pocket inside here. So we have places that we crease, that we're bending. We don't want any glue along these folds, or along these creases, because that glue will harden and it actually interferes with, and it creates more pressure to pull it apart like this. So we don't want that. So when we bring this down, we want to have a little bit of glue along the center here, let it close, and then we would be able to fold it successfully. Now remember, the Velcro strip is going to go here, and it's going to mate against one here. So the first step is probably we just want to glue this onto this section here like we did with the previous one. So what we're going to do then is put some... Okay, we have these marks, so we don't want to put the glue beyond those marks. And again, we're running out of the glue sticks. It happens very fast here. So let's hold this and apply some pressure. Again, there may be better glue guns, but with this one, you kind of have to do this kind of process. You can see it's actually pushing in as I pull the trigger to dispense the glue. Okay, we got that, and then we want to put some in the center as well. And again, the gun is very hot, especially up here. You just want to hold the handle, keep your hands away from the heat. Okay, so let me put that back here, and now we're going to bring this down on top and position it and make sure it's aligned. Remember, the glue hardens very quickly, so you want to get it on top of this as quickly as possible, as smoothly as possible, and so on. Now, again, the felt is an insulating material, so you can push your hand down here safely. At least in my case, it's not too hot. Whereas if this was aluminum, the heat from the glue will go right through the aluminum and burn you. So remember that. It's important for making these. It's not, aluminum has very different heat conducting properties, or metals in general. Any kind of electrical conductor is also a very good conductor of heat, which means it doesn't protect you from the heat of the glue at all, or very little. I would say not at all. Earlier things which are not in this video, I burned myself quite easily with the aluminum, so be very careful with that. Okay, so we'll let that go. Now I've glued it up to about here. Remember, it's actually going to bend here, and we'll bend again like that, right? So that's how it's going to work. So for that to work, what we're going to want to have happen is to put down the glue in the center here between these, also probably put in the middle of these places here. So let me see if we can put one of these in. It's still got plenty of glue. Well, again, the glue, unfortunately, the glue sticks don't last very long. All right, so let me see if we can... Now look at these marks. Remember, we want the glue in the center, like that. It's probably best to do it one sort of fold at a time. And remember, it's going to be fairly hot. I can feel the heat through the felt, although it's not burning me. So again, the glue is very hot when it comes out of the gun, and it will cause a burn. It's a very mild burn. I don't think my skin turns red, but it hurts. So I definitely want to be very careful with that. And let me see if we can maybe put this in now. Yeah, okay. So we used up probably 1 inch of the glue stick. So they don't last, you need to use probably, I would say, 7, 10 of the glue sticks for doing this. All right, so we go back. Again, this is the fold here, or the crease here. This is the crease. We want to put the glue in the center here, away from the areas that bend, because the glue will interfere with the bending and make it not work right. Okay, so let me hold this at the end here so I can force it through as I'm dispensing the glue. As you get better with the glue gun, you can probably dispense this material more smoothly than I'm showing here. Let's wait for that to set a little bit. One comment is, if you do this, you're probably going to have to do it a couple of times. You're going to have to do some practice and throw something away, unless you're very proficient with these kind of materials. If you're a costumer or something like that, a craftsman, you may be able to do this the first time, but I certainly wasn't able to. This is not the first time I've done this, and I'm still learning. All right, so let's see. Okay, so the crease is right here, so we want to put the glue along here. And again, we do this, and There we go. And maybe a little bit here. Okay, we'll put this aside. We're going to close this over and we're going to let it set. And I'm going to stop at this point and then I'll resume and do the gluing of more of it. So the next step with this is that we need to seal along the edges here. You can see I started with a phone inside of it, which is a mistake. At this point, you want to take the phone out. Be careful doing that. Everything's kind of fragile in here. It's very tight in here, so you have to reach down and kind of grab the phone is probably the best way, and hold on to the edge tightly here to make sure you don't pull the felt bag out. Pull the phone out, put it aside. Now this will naturally set together very well. So let's see, let's start here. So I was working on this edge in this rather inconvenient way of doing it, but we want to put glue along here. So how do we do that? We could do it a lot better without the phone because it'll just squash down much more easily. So let's do that. All right, so the glue is running to here. So this is a case maybe where we need to move that out of the way. And we'll go along here. We're going to do that. And then we can hold it down with the ruler in place. And you do probably want to do this sort of in segments, holding it in place until it sets a bit. And I think here we're just going to put this on the side. While we're waiting, let me just remind you, these are very hot. So definitely don't touch anywhere near the nozzle here. It gets very hot up here. The heating element is here. So you want to hold this area here and feed the glue sticks in through there. But be careful. These small ones like this that aren't, this is really cheap. It gets hot up here. Okay. Also, you don't want to leave them on for too long, as there are reports of them overheating and doing bad things. So once you're finished with them, you can turn them off. You can either this one doesn't have an on-off switch on the glue gun, but I put it in a power strip here, which has a switch I can turn on and off, which can be more convenient than unplugging it every time you want to turn it off. Okay. All right, so good progress there. It's starting to set, and we will again put out the glue here. Actually, that's a mistake. Sorry. Okay, as you recall, you want to make sure that so you don't want to do all the way around here. You want to go to this crease. Excuse me. You want to go to this crease here. Remember, the design is you do this twice. So it's important that it's important that you be able to do that. So in other words, you don't want to continuously put the you do not want to continuously put the glue along the edge up here after the crease, because that will interfere with being able to bend it. So that is not what you want to do. But you do want it continuous along here, and on the other side, I'll show it done on this side in a minute. Okay, so I shouldn't have done that, but well. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to put the glue along here, and then we're going to hold it down. So let's do this, and we'll do the glue. Okay, so we're going to let that set. Again, we'll use the ruler to hold it in place like that. Let it set, and we're going to get another one of these. Okay, again, you need to be careful with these things. So I'm going to put this back like that, put it like that, and we're going to kind of slide this into feed here. Okay, it needs to go like that. Put that like that, and there we go. So there we go. All right, while I'm waiting for that to set, just to remind you, you do not at this point want this inside because it makes it too hard to glue the edges along here. All right. All right, so let's glue some more of it now that it's had a little bit of time to set. And Okay, we need to hold this here and the end here. And okay, so we're going to do that. And we actually need to know the creases right here. All right, so we're going to wait a little bit for it to harden, and we can use the ruler to hold down this end here and get the merging to happen correctly. Okay. All right, so just to remind how this is designed to work, there's a crease right here, so we're going to want to run the glue up to here. I'm going to glue up to here to where the final bend occurs. So that's going to be here. I'm going to push it down. You can see some of it's coming out here, and we'll want to trim the overflow of the glue later. But for now, let's hold this down. All right. Okay, let's hold it there. All right, let's take a look at how it's working. You can see it still hasn't. You can see these strings coming off. It hasn't cooled yet, or you may be able to see the strings. They're kind of hard to see, but okay. And they tend to stretch kind of like, I'm not sure what to analogize them to. They're not really spaghetti, but they remind you of spaghetti. Yeah, it's still got some time to set. I'm going to stop and then I'll start again. So this is part way through sealing the edges here. I've taken a break to let some of the glue dry. So let's go ahead and we're going to trim some of the pieces of glue off the edge to make it a little bit neater. Just make sure things are okay. I'll do the same on the other side here. A couple of places where that's happening. Now you'll notice it turns out we missed a couple of spots. So I'm just going to take the glue gun here and we're going to make sure they're sealed up. Ideally, this would be a little more, I would say, better sealed if possible. But again, I'm kind of rookie at the glue gun usage, so just bear with me. But again, someone with more experience with the glue gun probably could do this neater than I can. But let's just show some of the issues that arise in putting this together. I think we have a gap here. So there's a few places that their glue wasn't applied smoothly enough, and I've applied some extra glue on those spots. And I'm going to stop it, and then we'll resume sort of finishing up next, and then we'll finish up completely with the Velcro tabs and testing the seal. Back from letting the glue that was put on along here set. As you can see, it was a little bit along here. We were setting, we waited a couple minutes, and now I'm going to trim some of the glue that's set off of the edges, make it look as neat as possible. Let's see, there's not too much more here to do. Okay. So before I add the Velcro, so again, the way that this is designed to work, you fold this, okay? And it's sealed along here. Inside is the tinfoil bag, and inside the tinfoil bag is a felt case or felt bag for the phone to sit in. And it helps protect both the phone and the tinfoil from damage, and it also prevents interactions between the phone. Okay, so I'm going to put my phone in now. Or actually, let me show this. Okay, we're putting the phone back down in here, and it's in the felt case now. And we're going to do this. All right, great stuff. Now, I haven't used the Velcro. I just want to confirm that the seal is working okay. And with fingers crossed or whatever, it should work, but nothing's perfect in the world, so let's find out. Okay, so I'm going to use my phone, and I'm going to, again, the redial is set on my, here we go. Okay, so it takes a little while. Okay, so it failed. That's what we expected to happen. Again, it's hermetically sealed by this double fold, and so interior to it, remember, the interior is lined with the foil here. So when we close it and we double fold, we make a hermetic seal that's good enough to stop the radio from coming in. So now I'm going to show the final step. Okay, so what we want to have happen is we will fold over one time, we will have the Velcro here, and it would fold over again and hit here. So let me show the Velcro. So this is Velcro strips that I picked up at a CVS in California, and these are available at a lot of different places. And certainly there are different types of fasteners, connectors that you could use, but I'm going to use Velcro. It has two parts. Right, there we go. Okay, so this is, you really can't see, it's kind of a rough plastic, and this is a fuzzy stuff that it sticks to. It works like that. You've probably seen Velcro before. And what we want to do is put the tough stuff here and the fuzzy stuff here, and according to this it takes about 15 minutes. So I'm going to cut these in half lengthwise. Let's show what I'm doing. So I'm cutting the fuzzy thing roughly in half, as they're bigger than I need for this. So this is about a half, well, more like an inch actually. So that's going to go here. This is the fuzzy side. And then here we have this kind of rough ridge. It's sort of like ridges. It's kind of hard to explain. It feels very plastic. We'll do the same thing with this. We'll cut it in half. Okay. That's what I would say. And this is a little bit of a judgment call. So I would say this is the harder one to get secured in place. So we'll start with putting that one. Now the way that these work is they have a plastic backing here. So this is the ridges, which is going to stick to the fuzzy part. And there's a very thin plastic layer here, which you peel off with your fingernails. It's kind of hard to get started. And there's an adhesive underneath it. Let's see if I can get it going here. Yes, I got it. I did remarkably well that time. Sometimes it's very difficult to get it started. So this side is sticky. So we're going to put it here. All right, it's going to be there. We're going to do the same thing here. So also the fuzzy side, this is fuzzy, it's soft feeling. And the ridged part connects to it and hooks, and that's Velcro. Again, I suspect if you're an expert on Velcro, you're probably like appalled at calling it fuzzy and ridges, but that's what I'm going to do. All right. Now I'm having some more trouble with this one, getting the adhesive backing. So again, this is a thin plastic layer which you peel off to expose the adhesive. Let's see if I can get this. I'm having more trouble with this end. This one for some reason. Okay, I'm going to have to look at it really close. See if I can figure out how to do this. All right, not sure why that is. This is so difficult to do. The other one was so easy to do, so it's amazing. I think I'm getting it. Let's take it slow and easy. Yeah, okay, I got it. I got it. All right, that's frustrating. A lot of times it takes a bit of work. You have to really look at it and feel around. Like a lot of these things, it's probably best not to try to rush it and just take your time, but I'm an impatient person. Okay, so we're going to put this on here. And what I'm going to do is let it sit for 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop, and then I will resume after the 15 minutes that it takes for the adhesive. So there's an adhesive backing on it. It's not very strong. So if I were to close it now and open it, might tear it off. So I'm going to let it sit for 15 minutes, and we'll come back. The secure case is now completed. It's been over 15 minutes since I applied the Velcro strips here, and supposedly the adhesive on the back of the clips will in fact supposedly cure in, let's see if it'll focus here. It's kind of fuzzy, but anyway, it says 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is done. So you can see we have the exterior felt, we've glued along the sides. Inside we have the, sorry, let me set it this way. Inside you can see the tinfoil Faraday bag. Let me open it up a little bit more to see if you can see you can see there's a felt interior pocket or case where the phone goes, and that is of course insulated, so it protects both the phone and it also prevents the phone from interacting with the metal, which will happen. So let's push this down in here. We're done. Okay. Now we've got it like this. We fold over once, we fold over twice, push, and we have a Velcro seal. I'm not sure how good this will be over the long term. This is certainly going to be better than my previous prototype, if you will, of how to do this. It's possible that if you have problems with holding this, you might want to use some type of clip or clamp or a different type of connector. Hopefully I'll be able to produce a more advanced video on how to do this in a week or two. I'm working on a lot of other things, so unfortunately people may have to start from here, but I think this shows very clearly how to do it. Let me do one more thing, which is I'm going to try to make a call and confirm that it is working. Okay, so I hit redial, which is programmed to call my, so the redial will call my phone. It usually takes a while. And if the seal is good, then the voicemail for the cellular system and not, yeah, okay, it's giving this, I'm sorry you can't reach this person message. I'm going to hang up. All right, that's done. Let's see if that'll come apart. It's still not working that well. So you probably want to be sort of careful using that seal, and maybe I can come up with a better seal in the future. Again, this is a do-it-yourself thing, so you need to kind of take care of it and be aware that it's not as durable as the commercial products, and test that it works. So that's good. When you're pulling the phone out, to hold on down here, keeps everything secure and holds on to the felt, the interior felt case or pocket is glued, and you could do a better job of gluing than what I showed in this video, but the point is it might come loose, so you probably want to hold here, pull out like that. Pretty easy. And now we'll put the phone on, and okay, and actually maybe you can see this, it says no service because it takes a couple seconds to connect with the cellular system. It's still saying no service. Let me see what we got here. It's taking a little longer than I'd like, but that's life. Okay. All right. Okay, it's showing the missed calls because I was trying to call it, and of course I got the voice message instead of the connection here. I'm just checking. Okay, well, let's see if we can make a call to it. See what happens. Yep, there we go. You can hear, and the phone is working, and it got through. So I'm going to hang up. All right, so once it's outside of it, it does work. You can make the connection. So there we go. So that's the phone. And so that's basically how you make one of these. Now, I am going to just repeat this, that of course, these commercially available methods, in particular, this is the case I got from Amazon a few months ago. Actually, more than a few months. I've had these for a couple of years, actually. As I mentioned, I have concerns. And so clearly it's easier to order these from some supplier online. It does not have to be Amazon, and they're more durable than these. But if for some reason they're not available, and similarly some of the other alternatives are not available at stores, then you have the option of making something like this. So I guess I would recommend, given the level of censorship that we're seeing, to download this video and keep it in a safe place you're going to remember. Disk drives today are humongous. You can actually store more video on a 1 terabyte drive than you probably could watch in a year. So it's not really a problem to download the video and other information on how to do this. You could also pick up some of the components in case you need to do this. Of course, it's probably better to, well, you should do that anyway, but you can also go ahead and get some of these things from suppliers such as Amazon. I'm sure there are websites that specialize in security components, security tools for you. That concludes this demonstration of how to build a secure case for your phone that blocks it from talking to the network, from spying on you, from tracking you, from watching you using its video cameras or listening to you with a microphone. This concludes this video presentation. If you like this video, please click like. Please click subscribe and the notification bell if you would like to receive more content from us. You can avoid internet censorship by subscribing directly to our RSS news feed. Please consider sharing the link by email or on your website or blog, in addition to liking, upvoting, or sharing on increasingly censored, advertising beholden, and big company social media. We have encountered such censorship. Mathematical software is developing software to automate data analysis, reducing the risks of costly errors and improving results. You can support our work financially by subscribing on our Patreon page. Scan the QR code in the lower right corner to get the Patreon link. Our Patreon link is also in the show notes below.